Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders that help it grow. Lance and Katie, if I make it through the 20 minutes, I'll be shocked. My internet, the first time I've had internet this morning, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Anyway, happy Flag Day, you two.
Great day.
Well, I hear you. I see you. I see me. All right, we'll see what happens. Let's see. You know how to ask questions. Note, a new registration link has been sent because you're here, you have the new link. So you all figured it out. Very good. Let's go to the poll questions. Number one, is your lending institution hiring new SBA 7A closers? Lance, why are we asking this question?
Well, it's difficult to find an SBA 7A closer, Bob. There are a lot of institutions throughout the country looking for closers. And with the influx of 7A and 504 deals, there needs to be more good SBA loan closers. And it's kind of a segue, Bob, because we are re-recording our award-winning SBA loan closer training too.
And yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But also, when our closers, it's a very nice career path for someone. Those experts, they're making. Go ahead.
Yeah, closer easily could become an SBA loan officer. It's a great spot to develop your skills. But you know, one of the things that a lot of SBA participant lenders are looking for is someone that has a proficiency in closing a 7A loan and training in closing a 7A loan.
And Lance, we've talked about this, and the role of the closer is the gatekeeper. The closer has to have the ability to say, no, we're not going to close this loan until I get this lien recorded. I don't care what the issues are, and no, you can't waive that. And to be able to have an organization behind him or her that supports that decision and understands how important it is. As I've said,
it becomes really important, Bob, because the Inspector General is now talking about SBA loan institutions that close their loans too quickly.
Yes.
But you want to provide funding to the small business borrower as quickly as possible. So finding that happy medium between closing it so quickly that you miss critical elements of a proper SBA close and being too slow. I mean, you got to find that happy medium, and the key to that is a great SBA loan closer.
Well, I have to give my real estate project analysis. That was my training as my master's in real estate finance. The business development officer is the developer. They see a blank piece of property and they have the concept, and they go out and they arrange the financing, and they arrange hiring an architect. The architect is the loan underwriter. The underwriter takes all this stuff and creates plans. It is the closer who's actually the contractor who builds an asset for the bank. Without the closer, you don't have a valid guarantee. It is critical. And then, of course, to follow up, I say the servicers, the facility manager, and the liquidator is the fire insurance collector, Lance, when the place goes down too. But the closer is so critical. That person is the person who creates the asset for the bank, Lance.
Well, and certainly the closer can make the liquidation officer's life a lot easier by properly closing loans, because when you're trying to get the purchase demand paid by SBA, a properly closed loan is much easier to deal with.
Same question for underwriters. Are we hiring?
Well, the same response, Bob. Most institutions that I know are hiring underwriters at this time. And looking for SBA.
In our conversation. Go ahead. Split 50-50. Good. Go ahead, Lance.
Oh, I was just going to say there are a lot of institutions, SBA lending institutions across the country looking for good underwriters, underwriters with SBA specific experience. So, I mean, I'm kind of surprised it's only 50-50. SBA 7A and 504 lending are both on an uptick, and I hear a number of institutions that are looking.
Yes, and there is a premium being paid for an underwriter who has SBA 7A/504 expertise. That is a little bit different.
Absolutely.
Finally, Lance's love services liquidators.
Well, my answer to this, Bob, there should be a category for me called "You Better Be." No.
Better be, yes. Yeah, I figured those would be 20% yes and 70% no. But Lance, you say you got to flip those numbers. You have to make sure you're staffed up for the balance of 2020 and 2021 and what's going to hit us in 2022.
Well, I think it's absolutely imperative to have good servicing and liquidation people on your SBA team. Now, I realize smaller institutions may not have that person, but they may have an LSP on board with them that they use for servicing and liquidation. But we've had this incredible number of PPP loans done. SBA 7A is back above 2019 levels. SBA 504 is up. There's going to be a lot of servicing and liquidation activity take place over the next year or two.
Hey, Bill asked a question. Let's go to this. Katie, get you in the conversation. Any update whether or when SBA will implement expanded rules for new SBA 504 refinance transactions, Katie?
We're still waiting.
I'll give you a softball to start off the week.
Well, I'm looking for that wound, Bob, that you're rubbing the salt in. No.
Yeah, no, to answer that question, we're still waiting on that. Obviously, as soon as that releases, we're going to be talking about that on the show. And of course, we're going to have a webinar on that as well. It's just PPP was the main focus for SBA for a while. And I think that's now that that's winding down, we'll probably get that guidance sooner, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Well, and I think before we see that, Bob, we're going to see the PPP servicing and PPP purchase demand and addressing PPP forgiveness. That's pretty imperative with the huge number of loans that are still waiting to be submitted for forgiveness.
Katie, one story that we have here, the SBA administrator is highlighting agency changes for 21 and 2022. What is this all about?
Yeah, so now that PPP is over for the most part, and the White House has been releasing their budget changes or their plans, the administrator has been asked several times what the plan is for SBA moving forward and what to expect. And she's reiterated several times that she wants to continue some of the things that we saw with PPP by expanding access to small businesses, especially those in areas that are underbanked for minorities and things like that. That second round or the most recent round of PPP did quite well at that, and she wants to continue that sentiment with the program. The other two items there are really just more predictions. She predicts that 7A and 504 lenders will increase participation in the programs, and then also guarantee percentages will remain high.
Is that telling us the 90% guarantee is around for a while?
I'm the one asking the question.
That's a hint at that, but that would definitely be something a lot of lenders would like to see.
So as of right now, the 90% ends September 30th, correct, Lance?
Yes, but I think the administrator's kind of telegraphing that probably will be extended.
Right.
Now, Bob, I don't expect the waiver of fees to necessarily be extended, although I could be wrong.
I agree with your assessment on both those, Lance. I think you're right. Katie, what's going on with the Cheddar Venue operating grant program? It looks like some people are upset.
Yeah, so the program's been out for quite a while now, and the way they were going to originally release this was there was going to be different priority periods based on the amount of funds, the grant funds that the businesses need as far as losses go. So the first group that was supposed to get funding was those with a 90% or more in losses over last year. So that group started applying and things like that. You have a significant number of applications, but until recently we were at around 50%, or sorry, 50 awards total when you've got thousands of applications. More recently, I believe this data was from last Wednesday, that bumped up to 90 awards. But if you look over the number of applications submitted and the number that are in review, we're talking thousands of applications for these grants that have not been awarded yet. And you've got performing arts associations of various sorts getting together. They're sending letters to the SBA administrator complaining about this issue. Really, all these people just need is the money. They're waiting on that money, and they applied, and there's still no response with a lot of these. There's no award money yet. So that is the complaint, and that's kind of where we are today. There's a lot of discussion about this in the news, so I think it's worthy to note that you're going to have a lot of people who are in this situation who are a little uncomfortable with how the SBA is handling this.
Bob,
And
they
it
should have
begs the question.
I'm sorry,
Go
Bob,
ahead,
they
Lance.
should have let the banks do this. Let the participant
I was
banks.
just going to say that. Lance, I'm just going to turn this over to you. You're doing a great job. No, no, I mean, that's why people say, well, should the agency do it or should the banks do it? That's the reason why you have the banks. The banks are the partner. The banks have infrastructure. The banks, except for a few bad actors, what they're doing. And for us to be talking about June 2021 when this money should have been out at June 2020 is hurting a lot of people.
Well, I agree with you 100%, Bob. I mean, the banks, the participant banks have proven that they can act quickly. I guess the biggest challenge, Bob, is how would you implement it? But I mean, that's water under the bridge.
It's not the horse,
Right.
but the horse has left the barn, the train has left the station. Very good. Real quick, Katie, what's going on with the economic advisory report? Real quick, good news, bad news, we don't know yet. Pick one.
Yeah, so this is kind of, I would say it's more neutral. It's really just more talking about data and things like that. You are seeing them projecting. Of course, this is all going to be based on projections. This is the American Bankers Association's report, so it's going to be based on data that they've collected, and it's really in the weeds. But to make it a little easier, just looking at some of the highlights, they're talking about household and business spending, which is predicted to reach 8% in 2021, and then slowing a little bit, but it is currently increasing, which is a good sign for the economy, and it's going to help boost the economy. They're also saying that they expect more than 550,000 monthly new jobs this year, which will bring the unemployment rate down from the 6.1 that it is presently to about 5.0, which would be great and definitely something they're striving for. So that's a good sign as well. And then there's the combination of temporary supply side constraints and strong demand, which is expected to keep inflation elevated at around 3.5% by the end of the year.
Yeah, and these are all important numbers in terms of we're trying to get a handle on what's happening. I don't see the next. Actually, I'm the one with issues over here. I tell you, with that, I apologize for our bad connections. Lance, real quick, give an elevator pitch on what we're doing next Wednesday and get it right. How to calculate those cash flow numbers for SBA.
Well, properly calculating cash flow is so important when underwriting an SBA loan, and especially now. Even existing businesses in most circumstances are going to have projections. because they may not have historical cash flow to support their loan requests. So understanding how to properly calculate cash flow, how to get your projections correct and properly documented are pretty critical to properly underwriting your SBA loan.
Thank you, Lance and Katie. Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a good day.